He was just a 30-year-old man that smelled like spaghetti who was hitting on a 19-year-old. 2003 marks my first love affair. All the 10 and 11-year-old children in the neighborhood would get together and grind. It didn't make sense really to anybody. Hello, I'm Caroline, hopeless romantic and notorious internet fool. This is the story of how, despite my foolful nature, I managed to stumble and fumble my way into true love. I have always been a romantic. I've really always yearned for someone that I could care for and someone I could feel deeply known by. However, in pursuit of that, I often instead found myself developing elaborate crushes on people who would ask to put me in a suitcase or fire me from my job or tell everyone I gave them bed bugs, okay? So, something got lost in translation along the way, but we will cover those events later in the video. Despite all that, today I somehow find myself in the most nourishing, uplifting relationship I could ever imagine, and to talk about it feels obnoxious. I get a lot of requests to do a Q&A about my new relationship, and I'm like, I think if I explain the way that it is and how caring and considerate this person is, it would sound like I'm lying. It would sound fake. It would sound like a weird internet flex. I think when I heard people talk that way about their relationship, sometimes I was just like, they're lying. They're lying. And I think it used to feel really discouraging to me to only hear people talk about what's so great about the relationship, because until you find the great thing, everything before kind of sucks, is what I feel. It's like it sucks until it doesn't. But nobody's talking about what sucks beforehand. No one's bragging about that. So I'm gonna make an entire flex of a video about how stupid my dating life has been. Okay? And yes, let me be clear. The goal of this video is to humiliate myself. The goal is to show how you can fumble and stumble and flail your way, even if your heart's in the right place, and embarrass yourself in love for a long time before finding the thing that is right. I feel strongly that it's hard. Love is hard until one day it isn't. Wow. Write that down. Now you're probably thinking right now, hey, Caroline, I know you feel great in this new relationship you have, but what if you make this whole video and that relationship falls apart? Aren't you gonna look like a fool? Yes. Why, yes, I am. And that's the thing about love. Sometimes you risk looking like a fool. And I've spent a lot of time trying my hardest not to look like a fool. Spoiler, it didn't work out that well. And I'm not that afraid of it anymore. I think what scares me more than looking like a fool, possibly, is protecting myself so fervently that I never give love a chance or I never celebrate it while it's there. Embracing love means embracing risk. There will always be risk. Always. If you're married for 20 years, there's still risk. You don't get to erase it all. I'm trying my hardest to embrace that. It is hard for me, and so I'm forcing myself to do this as a spiritual growth exercise. Now let's examine my romantic history to see how I ended up in the greatest relationship of my life. The year was 1997. Okay. Listen, I'm trying to keep this dress up as best as I can. I don't want to hear about it. The year is 1997. I was 6. Neil was the cutest boy in first grade, and I knew that because he had the same name of that astronaut guy, and that's how I knew he was hot. I wanted Neil's attention so badly. I was in love with him. I would die for him. I didn't know his last name. I was absolutely convinced that if only Neil could see me sleeping, he would fall immediately and desperately in love with me. It is logic that I stand by to this day. All the other 6-year-old girls out there get it. As it turns out, Neil and I did not end up together. We did not live happily ever after. In fact, I don't actually ever remember us talking. This was mostly something that existed in my head. I wish him all the best. 1999 to 2001, when I was in 2nd to 4th grade. This was honestly kind of a dry spell for me. I took some time away from dating to work on myself and on my times tables. This dry spell lasted a while, and I didn't fall in love again until 2002, in the place most people fall in love, Bible camp. Steve and Abby was the hottest kid at Bible camp, but he was going out with the hottest girl at Bible camp, Brianna. Brianna was hot, Brianna was effortless, Brianna was cool, Brianna was chill. Spoiler, I've never had any chill. So in order to win Steven's love, I changed everything about my personality and crafted a cool, chill persona. This was effective. I won Steven over, he asked me to go out with him, and then I was stuck in a relationship, whatever that means, in 5th grade with somebody based on a fake persona I had created. So it goes at Bible camp. This was the 5-day relationship where I learned that if you change yourself for somebody, then you might win the prize of having them, but you're stuck with the punishment of having to be somebody else for them. Our parents picked us up from Bible camp and I never heard from him again. And I wish him all the best. Wow, it is so hard to point and look at the camera while I do this. Nope. Pretty close. Nope. Yeah. 2003 marks my first love affair. This affair took place entirely over AIM, Instant Messenger. The target was a boy named Mason. He was a friend of my friend. We never met in person, but I did see him one time across the floor at a middle school mixer, and he looked pretty cute, but I wasn't actually that sure. This affair came to a halting stop with one unfortunate event, which was not his fault. But one evening, I sat down to talk to my friend Colleen on AIM. I typed in Colleen's screen name and started talking to Colleen. The way that AIM worked back in the day, for all you Gen Z, is you could just type in a screen name and you could talk to whoever it was, whether there was a typo in the screen name or not. We talked for about 45 minutes, and eventually Colleen was asking me questions like, how old are you? What are you wearing? It became clear to me that I had not in fact been talking to Colleen for the last hour, but a 46-year-old man named Wayne. It was a scarring experience. Why can't I close this now? It was a scarring experience that ended AIM for me and also unfortunately ended my love affair therein. This is what I learned. This is what I learned. You need to meet people in person. That actually applies to both Mason and Wayne. I should have tried to meet them in person. Or actually, probably shouldn't have met Wayne in person. Regardless, you never know what's behind a screen. I wish my AIM boyfriend all the best. As for Wayne, I do not wish him all the best. Hey, I don't know what part of the video we're in, but I want to pause to thank our sponsor, which is Skims. I have an important message for you. This video is sponsored by Skims, which is hilarious because like 2 months ago on my podcast, I spent about half a podcast episode essentially screaming about how I will only wear Skims bras and nothing else, and no one was paying me to say it.
Which is also made by Skims. My favorite bralettes are made by Skims.
Same. I don't like a wired bra. So painful. I mostly only wear non-wired and they make my favorite one. If you haven't tried Skims yet, this is my take. I have always hated underwire. It feels painful. I don't like the look of it. I also, though, have not enjoyed most bralettes. I have scoliosis. Bralettes, they give me really bad upper back pain. My friend Alexandra Anelli, you may watch her YouTube channel, one day just gave me a Skims bra, and I have never worn anything else since. I wear Skims bras every single day. I'm actually wearing it now. This is their Scoops bralette from the Fits Everybody collection. This is another one of the Skims Scoop bralettes. This is what I'm wearing right now. I just have them in a couple colors. I love this one because I'm trying to look in the viewfinder. It is one of the few bras that like fits the cut of all my shirts. There's never like a bra strap showing. The Fits Everybody collection is extremely stretchy, molds to your body, and it's like this really buttery smooth fabric. There's no uncomfortable wiring, but it's still extremely stretchy and supportive. This is like a racer back one. They have a bra to fit every single cut that you could ever possibly imagine, which is why I love it. So stretchy. I will wear it all day long and I never feel like I have to adjust it or I'm never aching to take it off at the end of the day. Skims.com/Caroline. You can check out the Fits Everybody collection. They have sizes extra small to 4X. You're also gonna get free shipping on orders over $75. I'm gonna put the link in description. And when you do, make sure to let them know that I sent you. Just click YouTube in the drop down selection and click my channel. You should definitely check out Skims if you haven't already. I didn't scream about it in the podcast for no reason. Hello? Okay, I'm back. I had to take a break to eat a waffle. So close. In 2003, I also had my first kiss with a boy named Bud. That was his government name. It was at a middle school mixer. Mixers were a big deal because boys were there. All the 10 and 11-year-old children in the neighborhood would get together and grind. Bud was a boy who had a crush on me, but I did not have a crush on him. My friend had a crush on him. It was a weird triangle, and he kissed me on the cheek while we were grinding to heaven by DJ Sammy. You know the one. When you're lying here in my arms, it isn't that hard to see when I'm on. I was extremely upset that my first kiss was with somebody I didn't like. I ended up crying in the parking lot. However, Bud was a very nice boy. I wish him all the best. Nice. In 2005, I had my first makeout. His name was Curl. And I thought we were gonna get married because Caroline Curl is incredibly adorable. That is so cute. That is so cute. A part of me still kind of holding out for that. We went on a date to the movie theaters. Now let me explain a tradition of the culture, the rich culture of the 2000s, which is that all the 13, 14-year-olds would go to a movie theater and watch some movie together, and they would all just make out in the movie theater. But now I don't feel like they're doing that in movie theaters. Now I feel like they're just like making out on Snapchat. So we'd all go and make out in a movie theater. I'd never made out with anybody before. I did not know that this was the culture. I didn't know. And sat down to watch the movie, and I looked over to Curl, and he stuck his tongue down my throat. I was revolted. I was revolted. I went the entire rest of the movie just staring at the screen because I knew if I looked over at him, that tongue would be there again. So I just looked at the screen the whole time and refused to make out with him anymore. I was so disgusted. And then at the next school mixer, a bunch of his boyfriends came up to me and told me I was a prude. So mixers, there's a theme of mixers not being a great place for me. I was very hurt and embarrassed that they were bullying me by calling me a prude. I did not want to be a prude, but I knew I didn't want to be bullied. So at the next school mixer, I just made out with a random potato-faced boy named Will. And after that, my friends judged me for making out with a random person, which was kind of slutty, as they said. So I couldn't figure out if I was a prude or a slut. It was like, I'm talking about it in a silly way right now, but the whole thing was a very upsetting experience for me. I was 13 years old, and it felt like there was no way to win. Like, I didn't know what people wanted me to be. I pissed off the boys by not making out of the theater, and then I pissed off my friends by making out with a random dude. It was genuinely a very frustrating time, and I really just like remember the feeling of like, wait, but I thought you wanted me to kiss a boy, so I did that, and now I'm in trouble. This is the era where I began to learn a lifelong lesson, which is that people's expectations of you don't really matter. People's expectations of you really aren't your business. If you don't want to make out in a movie theater with a long 12-year-old child, you don't have to. And the names people call you might hurt, but abandoning yourself will hurt more. Moving on. I wish them all the best. In 2006, I had my first real boyfriend, who I met where all the hot and popular kids meet their boyfriends. Theater practice for the school play. Stupid dress. I befriended a boy named, we will call him Linus. He was smart and funny and nice, but I didn't have any romantic feelings for him at all. He asked me to be his girlfriend, and at the time I thought that if the only reason I refused to be his girlfriend was because I didn't have romantic feelings for him, something as small as that, then I was a bad person. So when he asked me to be his girlfriend, I said yes because I thought if I didn't, I'd be a bad person. However, as it turns out, it is very upsetting to go on dates and act romantic with someone you don't actually feel romantic for. I'm pretty sure we broke up in a strip mall. I wish him all the best. The next year at play practice, I found a new boyfriend. He was a cute jock who had injured himself, and so instead he ended up going out for the school play. Truly, this guy was so sweet. He was such a nice person. He was such a sweet guy. I have nothing bad to say about him. He broke up with me. That's life. This one I learned, it's okay to have your heart broken. It doesn't mean that somebody's a villain. Sometimes nobody's a villain, and it's just a part of life. I wish him all the best. The year is 2010. I was a freshman going to school in New York, and I got a part-time job waitressing in restaurants. I was incredibly bad at the job. Eventually, the manager asked me out on a date. I thought, that's surprising. We work together, and he's definitely my superior, blah, 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 blah. Asked me on a date. I went on a date and was like, okay, I guess maybe it's chill. The next day, he fired me from the job. So that was why it was okay to ask me out on a date, because he could just fire me and then everything would be fine. So that wasn't even the weird part. The weird part was seeing him on this date where he was no longer in uniform, in his like manager uniform at the restaurant. And that authority figure that you have a crush on, here's the thing. When you see them out of uniform, you realize you didn't have a crush on them, you just had a crush on the uniform. And maybe he actually wasn't that hot all along. He was just a 30-year-old man that smelled like spaghetti who was hitting on a 19-year-old. Huh. This is where I learned, don't be fooled by the uniform. You might only be attracted to the uniform. He fired me, but you know what? I wish him all the best. Ow. Ouch. In 2011, I had my first college boyfriend. He was a pretty medium, decent boyfriend. I don't think either of us liked each other that much. You know those weird relationships you get into when you're younger and you're like, I don't think either of us really liked each other? Whoops. Also, his parents did not approve of me for religious reasons, and I'm like 99% certain he stole a pair of my underwear and lied about it. I don't know how I feel about that, but I wish him all the best. In 2013, I fell deeply, pathetically, and hopelessly in love. This was really the first time that I was really in love, and I can't tell you why. It didn't make sense really to anybody. You can't explain it. It was that first love where like a lot of the time you just want to die for them, and the rest of the time you just want to die. It was so extreme. It really was like kind of going through the looking glass into another world. It just felt so extreme, and I had like no preparation for what that was gonna feel like. I don't know why it hit me so hard with this person who didn't really care about me, unfortunately, but I was 21 and I was absolutely screwed, really screwed. Technically, I was an adult at this point, but I don't think I deserved the title of adult. I don't think I was acting like an adult. I was not. I was acting like a child. I damaged plenty of friendships over this relationship. I damaged myself a lot over this relationship, and it felt like I would die without it. That was the feeling. So if you're going through that, that feeling isn't true. I just had no self-respect, no sense of value at this age. One time, there was some reason I wasn't allowed to go see him. I think he was living with his parents or something, and I wasn't allowed to get in to see him, and his solution to that problem was that he could put me in a suitcase and then bring the suitcase into the house, and then he would unpack me from the suitcase. There was something about that offer that even with as little self-respect as I had, I was like, no, maybe not that. Maybe I won't do that. We dated for a year and a half, and then it ended with him ghosting me. Let me say that again for the people in the back. I was ghosted by my boyfriend of a year and a half. It's chill, dude. It's chill. This is the time, where is it? Where is it? Where I learned you can survive the heartbreak. You can survive it. Even after the ghosting, I was obsessed with him. It was that feeling where his name would interrupt every other word I thought. I couldn't even have a thought to myself without his name popping up. I just remember like crying to my mom. It was one of those beautiful moments where my mom really showed up. Remember, she explained to me like, what's gonna happen is it's gonna change gradually. For a while, you're gonna think of him every second, and then you might think of him just once a minute, and then it might be once every 3 minutes, and then 4 times a day, and then maybe once a day, and then it'll be a thing of the past. But slowly, gradually, there's gonna be more space between the thoughts and the torture. And it's true. You can survive it. I wish him all the best. Wow. Dang it. Wow, okay. Things didn't really get better after that. In fact, I would say they got worse. I developed a crush on a man who I worked in a restaurant with. We had never gone out. I just decided I was obsessed with him. I announced to my family, I'm going to marry this man. I'm gonna marry him. And I know I sound crazy right now, but I want you to remember this so that you can put it in our speech at my wedding. I want you to remember this moment where I said I'm gonna marry this man who I have never been on a date with. And that is actually pretty close to what happened, except that what actually transpired was that I accidentally gave him bed bugs, and then he told everyone at the restaurant where we worked that I gave him bed bugs, and then I was known as Bedbug Girl. Oh, and also it turns out he was gay. This is such nice yarn. It's really thick yarn. I'll link the yarn. The The year is 2015. I was 23 years old. I started taking improv comedy classes, and in improv classes, I ended up meeting the first person in my life who would give me real love. Not this guy. I was in love with him, but he didn't really have any feelings for me. 2015 brought one of the biggest and longest relationships of my life. There were good times and there were a lot of hard times, and we were both kind of broken people who did our best with the tools we had at the time. We were sad a lot. In fact, we were so sad together that we decided to date for 6 years. But in all seriousness, there was very real love here. And when somebody gives you 6 years of your life, ultimately what I feel is gratitude. The things that we both learned and went through in that time were huge for me. And after 6 years of this relationship, I learned the lesson that I never expected to learn, which is that love alone is not enough. I don't know if you've had to learn that lesson yet, but it is a weird one. We did ultimately end things, and out of respect for somebody who gave me 6 years of their life, I have nothing more to say. I absolutely and deeply wish him all good things. So, this brings us to the year 2021. In a way, it was actually kind of a clean breakup. We'd broken up so many times that at that point, I don't think we had anything left to give, and I knew it was done. So we had like a 3-minute conversation, and I was like, okay, I will go home then. And the next morning, I packed up my car, said goodbye to our dog, and drove myself 10 hours home to DC. To start my life over. I woke up the next morning and like, I remember putting my feet down on the floor, getting out of bed and seeing like a rug there that I didn't recognize. You know, I wasn't in my bedroom. Waking up into like a world I didn't recognize. My boyfriend of 6 years was not there. My dog was gone, our house, and most importantly, what I foresaw as my future, all of my future, was just gone overnight. It was very surreal, but it did feel like the only thing in a way that made sense. It felt like the first time I had peace in a while. And while I guess I hadn't given up on love, I just couldn't think about dating ever again. I didn't want to share any space or any time with anybody. I lived with my family for a few months, and I spent that time mostly just enjoying time on my own, time with my family, time trying to like return to myself. And I truly could not imagine ever wanting to like open up my soul to someone again. And that was just about going on 3 years ago now. But you're gonna have to stay tuned for part 2 to know the rest of the story of how I found my way to the greatest love of all. So silly. I love talking about dating and love and foibles and breakups and all that. I've been through so many breakups. I feel like I have my PhD in breakups, and it's such an isolating experience that does feel like your world's ending. There's real grief involved in a breakup. And real panic, I know that for sure. And I think one of the benefits of having been through so many is that I've been able to kind of like plot out the expected timeline of a breakup. If you or somebody you know is having breakup problems or dating problems, I did a whole podcast about it on my podcast, Not For Everyone. I'm gonna link the podcast where we do a whole breakup episode, everything you need to know about your breakup to survive your breakup. Thanks for joining me in one of the stupidest videos I've ever made. There's gonna be another part to this, believe it or not, coming out soon, so stay tuned. This is a nightstick that my mother gave me to protect from intruders. Okay, what am I doing? Wow, I just lost a bunch of pins in the couch. It's gonna be fun to sit on later. I have only used it once as a weapon against myself. This, ooh, wait, hold on. I'm actually pretty sick today. I am really running out of breath, so if I'm like doing that a lot. What the heck? I pinched my finger in the spiral part and poked myself in the eye. It happened to you, but take the risk anyway. And he was having a love affair, but he had a crush, but he was going out on the hottest girl at Bible camp, but he was going out with the hottest girl at Bible camp, Brianna.